So we're looking here at question 3 of 2015 paper 1. So we're looking at algebra question. Now this is fairly handy. You look at it and go, now first question I'd ask myself is, well, the word simplify is not solve. There's no equal. So solve and equal would always go together. This is an expression, an algebraic expression. So we're not going to solve, we're not going to find out what x is, but we can do things to make this expression just simpler to look at or simpler to use. The first thing is obvious enough. Okay, and you've known this for years. If you see brackets, you don't know what else to do. Get rid of them, and you get rid of brackets by multiplying. So we can go along. I'm going to go to the answer just for simplicity's sake, but you're going 3 multiplies by both terms, then the minus 2 multiplies by both terms, and then you can do any addition, whatever subtraction that's left. So let's look at the answer. So I've rewritten the question. I've done multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. Now plus by a negative is a negative. 3 times 5x is 15x. Minus by a plus is a minus, 2 5s is 10. Minus by a minus is a plus, 2 times 6x is 12x. Okay, so I have done some simplification. So I need to do the last little bit to get to the final answer. Is there anything that can combine together? Well, the minus 15x and the 12x. So I owe you 15 euro. I pay you back 12 euro. I still owe you 3 euro. Same thing here. I have 12. Take away 10 is 2. Now you could write that minus 3x plus 2 or 2 minus 3x. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You can, whatever. That's pretty handy question. So that's part A. Part B, I'll assume you're stopping this to have a go. And I would suggest having a go. This inequality often puts people off. They go, oh, I don't recognize that. I don't know what the hell's going on. I would suggest you just treat that as if it's an equal sign. There's only one time when that becomes a problem, and that's when you have to multiply across by a minus or change the signs. And then the inequality flips direction. This may or may not happen. The other thing here is this is saying that x is an element of n, means that your answer x will be a natural number. So it's a positive whole number. Okay. Now that doesn't include 0, so it's not 0, so the numbers 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay. It's asking you to list them. So we want you to put them in set form, and the set form is usually in brackets. Okay. Just get stuck in and go straight to the answer here. So I've written out my inequality. Now I can treat this just like algebra. So if you're bringing something across the inequality, it changes sign. Okay. So what I'm doing here is bringing the 2 across, so it ends up on the right hand side. Goes across inequality, so it was being added on the left, becomes subtracted on the right. I'm just going to do that little calculation. So minus 6 take away 2 is minus 8. I'm looking now going, right, how do I get rid of this minus 3? I'm trying to solve this. Okay. So the minus 3 needs to move. Now what I've done here is I've divided both sides by minus 3, which is the algebraic thing. But most students would look at this and go, well, I should bring the minus 3 across the inequality. Now when you bring something across the inequality, it changes operator. It's a very thing to have, because the mistake people make here is to bring the minus 3 across and go, oh, it must change sign. And that's not the case. It's minus 3 times x. So when it goes across the equal, it'll become divided. Okay, now that's the faster way of doing it. I've done it on the notes here. The way it's, I suppose, it's actually done, which is using the fact of equality and dividing both sides by the same number in order to remove the minus 3, and that number would have to be minus 3 because and divided by itself is 1, so they cancel. Minus 5 minus the plus. Now 8 divided by 3 is a fraction. Okay, you could go decimal here if you wanted, or you just leave a fraction. It doesn't matter. Okay. So our x value, and if you notice here, between those two things, because I divided across by a minus, or multiplied across by a minus, because I've changed signs is ultimately what's happening, the inequality has changed direction. Okay, so I'm now saying my x value must be less than or equal to 8 over 3. But my question states that it must be a natural number. So 8 over 3 is the same thing as 2 and 2/3. That's not a natural number. That's a real number. Okay, so the next natural number that would work is 2. Below that is 1. Now I don't write in 0 because 0 is not a counting number. So it used to be called a natural number, but they've changed that in recent times, and it's no longer considered a natural number, especially by the SEC, who are the ones in charge of marking or giving the instructions to mark the exam. So whatever they say goes. Okay, so let's move on now. This question was the one that caused a huge problem in 2015. Now I marked paper 2, okay, and there was furore. The markers for paper 1, and there was a walkout and all sorts of drama. So the marking scheme sometimes if you got a really hard question, it can actually end up being to your benefit, because if you found it hard, well, then so did a lot of other people. And if it's a flawed question, or one that maybe shouldn't have been asked, is too much for pass, leave cert, they'll often go very easy on the marking. Okay, so you'll see here this question, part A was worth 15 marks. Okay, part B was worth 5 marks, and part C was worth, part B was worth 5 marks, part C was worth 5 marks. Okay, so a bit of a brain freeze there. They're also using function notation. So what it's basically saying here is something multiplied by an unknown function or unknown term gives you this quadratic. I know it's quadratic because it has a power of 2. Okay, as the biggest power. And it's saying find g of x. There's a whole pile of ways of approaching this question. Okay, and no, some are not better than the other. Okay, but I know from, I suppose, knowledge of quadratics that a quadratic always has 2 factors. When you multiply those 2 factors together, you get the quadratic. So one way of doing this would be to solve this quadratic. Whatever answer you get, one should be this factor here. The other answer should be the second factor, the unknown factor. Okay, that's one method. Okay, so I'm going to go just a few methods done here, and yeah, okay, so just 3 different methods here. Now, this is not the one I would actually. This first one we're going to go through. It's not the way I'd probably approach it. To be honest, I probably would have done this where I solved the quadratic, found the 2 factors. Okay, but I'll go detail it. So you're multiplying 2 minus 3x by. Now we know it's going to be something x plus a number. Okay, just by the way you're looking at this. So you're actually going to go ahead and mimic what's going on. So I'm multiplying the 2 by everything in this bracket and the minus 3x by everything in this bracket. And I've represented that as something called the FOIL method. Okay, but whatever. When I then end up doing that calculation going left to right, I end up with this kind of weird thing. Okay, so 2 times ax. Okay, so if a was 1, it'd be 2 times 1 times x. Okay, but this, we don't know what a is yet. Plus 2 times b. Minus 3x by ax is minus 3ax squared. It's tricky, but it should be doable. Minus 3x by b is minus 3bx. Now that's equal to the right-hand side. I'm not going to bother putting in the equation just for whatever. You can just always write that equal to whatever, that side. Then I'm going to go ahead and do some simplification here, and I'm actually moving things around on the left-hand side, so they're not changing sign. I'm putting the x squared first, so that it will equate with this. I'm putting the 3b minus 3bx plus 2ax here, because it'll equate across to this. And then the 2b will equate across to the 8. Okay. So if you see here, I've highlighted in color. Now, the color probably doesn't come out for you guys if I've printed it, unless I printed it in color. Okay, so just bear with me. The minus 3a corresponds to the 15. The minus 3bx plus 2ax corresponds to the minus 22. And the b corresponds to the 8. Okay, so I've done it here. I've taken the 2 things. I'll be able to figure out the b and the a after. So minus 3a equals 15. Okay, so therefore the minus 3 goes across equal. And now it doesn't, if you notice here, it doesn't change sign. Okay, but it does change operator, so it becomes divided. So plus 15 divided by minus 3, plus divided by minus is a minus, 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay, so I know now that big A is 5, negative 5. I then go and equate the 2b equals 8. Okay, so bring the 2 across, becomes divided. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I know the b value is 4. If you look at it, if I go across, well, then don't I also know what this is? Because I know that b is 4. And I know that a is negative 5. Okay. So when I put those in, I've done a bit of, I suppose, I've left out a bit of work here. I'm basically going minus 3 times minus 5. Okay. Now the middle bit there, I don't actually need to work it out in a sense. I just need to work out or put a and b into the original factor I made up. So a was minus 5, so minus 5x, plus b is 4. So job done. Now you can test that by multiplying 2 minus 3x by minus 5x plus 4. You should get this as your answer. This whole thing is your answer. So that's one way of doing it. Okay, again, not the way I probably attempt it. Now, if you've done junior cert maths at the honours level, you'd been used to dividing factors into usually cubic equations. And you can do that here. If you divide 15x squared minus 22x plus 8 by 2 minus 3x, you should get 5x, sorry, minus 5x plus 4 is your answer. Now, I would not recommend following this method unless you can remember how to do that. Chances are you maybe haven't done honours junior cert, so we'd have to learn off an entirely new method. It's fairly tricky and long-winded and hard to remember. So the majority of students, it's kind of a waste of class time to spend 2 classes, maybe 3 classes, and then maybe only a certain percentage of the class actually remembering how to do it. So that's maybe not the most popular method. Okay. Now the last one here, okay, was where I would have done it. I would have had this quadratic here, and I would have solved it either using the quick 2 brackets method, okay, or I would have used the minus b formula. And you end up getting the 2 factors, okay, so, and then you can cancel whatever. You can cancel the common factors from top and bottom. So that, in this case, it's 2 minus 3x, cancels the 2 minus 3x, you're left with the finite minus 5x plus 4. Okay, so that's that. That's part C. Okay, that's the end of question 3. It's a bit longer than the other questions, but it's a bit longer, as I said, but that's just the nature of these questions. Sometimes the explanation takes a little bit longer. Thanks very much for listening, and